Well, we're here to learn about the market, right? We know there's a lot of great entrepreneurs here. We know that's an expanding market, growing economy. So we're just here to learn more.
I love the energy and enthusiasm of all the founders we've talked to so far. Everyone clearly is very passionate about what they're working on, and I think all of them are working on very important problems.
It's really about the team, right? So we don't bet on ideas as much as we do the team. So almost by definition, a great team will have at the very least a good idea. And so it's really the teams we're looking for, because we know any company that applies with whatever idea they have, it's not 100% perfect. So it's the team that's going to need to react to the market and kind of adjust that vision and that idea over the course of time. And that's for every startup, and that's why we bet on the teams.
Yeah, so I work the closest with Just Ride. Just Ride is essentially, they're the Airbnb for cars in India. And so they just had a really clever, unique way to acquire cars on their platform as well as customers, building trust factor through the technology they have, hardware and software side, as well as a unique leasing model to get cars on the platform, as well as being just on top of this macro trend of the fact that car ownership is low in India and that more people have money to rent cars, and people can actually make a living off of renting cars on that platform. And so I think it was a lot to do with timing and a lot to do with the fact that it was this set of founders that were working on the problem. Another one I know a bit about is ClearTax. He was just growing very, very fast, and clearly people wanted what he was building, and so that was good as well. And I think there's a lot of enthusiasm here. I think the Indian economy is growing very, very fast, and technology is going to drive the future of this economy globally and also this economy as well. And so what the founders are working on right now is very, very important. We're interested in everything, but if I had to, I think there's a lot going on in consumer. So we've seen more of those applications, consumer applications. I think there are a lot of people working on dev tools, development tools for developers, and also B2B. That's becoming more popular. But in general, we just want to see everything.
It's a giant market, right? 1.3 billion people living here, a growing economy, a growing middle class. There's a ton of opportunity. And on top of that, there's a huge pool of great engineering talent. So those two things together, make it an exciting place. The advice that YC gives is general advice on how to build a great company. It's not necessarily requires specific kind of market knowledge, if you will. We expect that from the team. So we work with the teams, assuming they have great market knowledge. So, YC, I think, does a good job of working. I think a third of the teams at YC do not come from the United States and aren't attacking a U.S. market.
If you just copy someone, you will copy already a big player, especially. You have no advantage, and so I think it's But the other thing, these things are really good ideas, and so you have to just bring some unique insight. Like, what is the special thing? What makes you better than the person you're quote unquote copying? And so it could be that you have a different idea of how to acquire users. It could be it's actually a different business model, or it could be just a modification to your market. And so I don't like copycats because I just think that there's there's just nothing unique about it that will help you become big. But if you can bring a different angle to it, different perspective, then that's totally fine to me. It's for any startup in which they're trying to build a big brand is create something people want, and not only focus on user acquisition, but also focus on user engagement and retention, and really focus on quality. Because if you focus on quality, then people are going to talk to you, or people are going to talk about your product more, and that's how you become a really good brand. I think that's the wrong mindset. I think it's better not to raise money. All things equal, better not to raise money than raise money. Just because you're giving, not only just you're giving up equity, but also, it's harder to control your own destiny that way. And so it's a means to an end for sure, which means when I say it's not the greatest thing to raise money, it's just not the thing to focus on. Like, what you should focus on is how are you going to acquire users, how are you going to keep them, so on and so forth. And if money helps them, or money helps them you do that better, then you should, that's perfectly a fine reason to do it. But it should never be a prize at the end of the day, is who raised the most money.
It depends when they need it. Certainly after they have market fit, right? And they want to raise money to kind of get them to that next milestone, whether that is to a point where they can raise a big growth round, or to prove some point beyond kind of product market fit. The enthusiasm and the people here about entrepreneurship, that's been just a wonderful surprise, and it's exciting to be around.
I think both ecosystems are growing extremely fast. They're both bigger than the US. There are billions of people, and so there's lots of opportunity essentially. And the thing I like about both China and India is that it's the grit that the founders have. Like, they really want it, and they're really hardworking. And in general, especially in India, from what at least the startups I've been talking to, maybe it's like selection bias that I'm just meeting people like this, but they're really working on problems that are important. They're important to the people in the country, and just like China, people are not you don't need to think global to start with. You can just think about your market, which is the Indian market or the Chinese market, and that focus is good, I think.
There's a lot that goes into building good companies, a lot, and it depends on the stage they're at. Some things become more important at certain stages than early stages. At YC, one of the things we tend to work with folks on the earlier stage, and the advice we give them is do two things early on. Okay, talk to your users, understand what those pain points are, and then write code, right? Build the product, and get and learn, release the new code, learn from that, and iterate on the process until you have a good product market fit. We invest in teams, so if good teams apply, we'll accept them. Yeah, there's a lot of good talent that we've met today, so I'm excited about reading their applications in the coming weeks.
Focus. I think the biggest detractor, the biggest reason most startups fail is, one, either co-founder issues. So obviously, find a good co-founder if you have one, but and deal with the issues as they come instead of letting it drag out. But then after that is focus, and people, I think, try to do too many things at once, and that creates an executional risk. And so if people can just focus on one thing at a time and just do it really well, you're more likely to figure out if that thing is going to fail or not or if that thing is right for the company or not, by just focusing. Co-founder, a lot of people do co-founder dating, and I rarely see that actually work. So co-founders are usually people you've just known for a long time. You just know just how they react and how to interact with them. And so it doesn't become a chore or task to talk or communicate with them. So typically a good co-founder is either someone, a friend you've had for a while, or someone you've worked with a while. And so I think if you don't have a co-founder, it's actually better just to work on something yourself, and then just serendipitously, someone you meet is you find good. Or if you don't have an idea, then just go work at a company, work at a fast-growing company, and you'll find someone. Most people who work at those fast-growing Series A, Series B, Series even C startups, they're very entrepreneurial or want to be entrepreneurial, and those are good places to test out a relationship. They've always, people have been predicting this bubble thing for since I don't know, the early 2000s, and it still hasn't happened yet. There's no obvious trend to me other than that there's still a lot of excitement around investing in good founders and investing in good ideas. And so you always go through cycles. Anything to do with money goes through cycles. And so sometimes it's a little bit easier, sometimes it's a little bit harder. So right now I think maybe it's a little bit harder to raise money than it was, 2 or 3 years ago. But that's just a cycle. I think, as we learn about business models better and things like that, we can go up and down. There's this one question on the application, which is, what does your company do? And one of the hardest things actually as a new startup is to explain in 1 or 2 sentences what you do. And so just nailing that is probably really important, because that's the first question on the application too, which sets the tone for the rest of the application when people are reading it. But more so than that, it's when you're approaching investors, anytime people start pulling out a deck to try to explain to me, I'm like, okay, you've already gotten it wrong. You need to be able to just explain to me in 1 or 2 sentences what you do. So, so getting that right is good. And the one way to get that right is to basically get it down and then go talk to all your friends, go talk to random people on the street, explain it to them, and see if they can repeat it back to you. And if they can, then you got it right.